We can shine in a crowd, we never hesitate. Let us rise to the clouds. We got nothing to lose, I know the time is right. Let us light up the fuse. And I know, and I know, and I know, and I know we're perfect, you and I. And I don't, and I don't, and I don't, and I don't giving up without a fight. What I feel, I know it's right. Let us detonate tonight. Let us detonate tonight. Let us detonate tonight. We can shine in a crowd, we never hesitate. Let us rise to the clouds. We got nothing to lose, I know the time is right. Let us light up the fuse. And I know, and I know, and I know, and I know we're perfect, you and I. And I don't, and I don't, and I don't, and I don't giving up without a fight. What I feel, I know it's right. Let us detonate tonight. Let us detonate tonight. No, it's right. Let us detonate tonight.
Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, a podcast where we discuss our thoughts on random shit that we come up with on the spot 5 minutes before we go on the air. I am Angelus de Mortiel, together with KevN7.
Hi.
No, you got it right. And also Xaiphen is also here. So if you didn't notice, for those of you watching the stream on here, the overlay might be a bit fucked up because we're still working out. If you guys didn't notice, we have this nice new shiny format that looks awesome and we're really excited about it. Mostly we're excited about it because we are getting rid of fucking Skype. Good riddance. So we're doing this stream now through Discord and came up with a new fancy shiny new overlay for everything. It's animated. It has floating dots. It looks great. If I do say so myself. Yeah, all the pixels are crashing. So in any case, though, I put everybody's name on there, and then of course I realized afterwards that there's no way for me to set up the names. So in any case, that's something I'll fix it later. We'll fix it in post.
Hashtag more fucked up.
Fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post.
You know it.
Aside from that, though, welcome to everybody listening on or watching the stream. Everybody that listens online on our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast. Fuck it. There's a whole bunch of them. You guys are listening. Yeah, we give you all the options on the places to listen to it. Unfortunately, I don't really remember the full list of all the places that we stream this podcast audio online. So if you're listening to it on some internet place, thank you. And yeah, good stuff. Anyway, so this week we do have some
to the Spotify overlords.
Yeah, Spotify, especially shout out to you guys on Spotify. I really appreciate the fact that you guys are giving the music industry tons of corporate overlord money. It's really appreciated.
Wait, they pay proper royalties on Spotify? When did that start?
They pay shit royalties on Spotify.
That was my point.
It's one of the most despised places.
They start doing the industry right.
Yeah. So in any case, we do talk about games and politics and that sort of thing. But usually we do it in the most roundabout, incoherent, and rambly way possible. That's the general theme of things.
Fuck your ideals. I mean,
and usually the chat spends most of the time saying how fuck whatever corporation that we happen to be talking about, because usually we're ranting. But you know, that's another story. In any case,
so fuck Take Two.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to Take Two. That's on the list. We also.
I think I'm going to take a couple of seconds and turn off this light to avoid blinding people with this glare that's coming off my forehead right here.
White light on insane white. It blinds everything and everyone.
There's yeah. While he's turning off lights, Kev, have you played any new game stuff?
That was quick.
Spider-Man.
Oh, what's this game? Some game that came out for some peasant box.
Spider-Man is one of the best superhero games I played in a while. So,
at 30 frames.
Good,
so why don't you give us?
I play games on PC at 30 frames sometimes. That bothers me none.
Oh yeah, no, that's not. Well, so what are your thoughts? Roll us down what you like about this game.
I got a first impressions video that's rendering, and I don't want to spoil that. So I'm going to say, watch my first impressions video. I will say most of my worries that I had before the game came out, some of them are true. It is fairly Arkham Knight-y in terms of combat, but there are some things that are unique to it for Spider-Man too. The web slinging is fun. I'll leave it at that. I think it's a good game. My first impressions are going to be positive.
As a little point, though, one of the things about Batman, the Arkham games combat, where whenever a person was swinging in to punch you, they would always like slow down, and then you get the chance to hit that combo button, right? Same thing with Shadow of Mordor. The only game where that actually made sense would be a Spider-Man game because of Spider Sense.
Yeah.
But
right?
See,
actually, yeah.
Spider Sense actually works that way. Like you have that combo system, but like where you would normally hit Y on your controller or a triangle.
Yeah.
And this one, you hit the circle and you dodge. So you don't actually block; you just dodge.
Yeah.
Where Batman is a lot more. Batman's a lot more tanky than Spider-Man. Spider-Man's really agile, and you really play a lot with that agility. and it's fun as hell.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's fast, he's agile, and does it play off of his strength? Because there's a lot of depictions of Spider-Man, just like in general media, that do not really accurately portray how fucking strong he is.
Well, I mean,
they don't portray how strong he is in this game either.
Well, I mean, the MCU, they definitely didn't underscore. They definitely scored in.
No, that was the first time that I've actually seen them portray that right. Like the very first introduction of him in Civil War, where they show him fucking catch a car. And Stark points out, like, well, it's about 3,500 pounds at 35 miles an hour. That's a good catch.
Well, yeah.
That's Spider-Man, and that's what a lot of Spider-Man you've not witnessed in video format, whether it's been games, movies, the old crappy TV show. We'll not get into that one too much.
Well, which old crappy TV show are you talking about?
I mean the one, what was it, from the 80s, I think?
I think so.
Okay.
Or maybe 70s.
The one from 94 was amazing.
No,
animated character X-Men?
Yeah,
no. I mean the live action TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That one was retarded.
I don't want to.
It was not as bad as pre-Adam West Batman. Because Adam West Batman was made campy in response to how racist the previous Batman TV show was.
Yeah. So as a note to Pinnacle Ops in chat, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about when you say Captain America is OP in the MCU, because Spider-Man was much stronger in the comics, much stronger than Captain America. Yeah. But in the MCU movies, you see like where Spider-Man shoots the webs and grabs Captain America's arms, and Captain America just like butterfly and does a little flip thing and sends Spider-Man flying. Yeah, that they definitely made Captain America a lot stronger than he was in the comic books. But comically, some of the other heroes are weaker than they are in the comic books, like Hulk.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
It doesn't. I don't think nerfing Hulk makes sense. That's like Hulk is this 8-foot tall green mammoth of strength and rage.
That's the thing in the comics is the Hulk's strength would regularly scale to his opponent. And they didn't completely depict that in the MCU.
Yeah, the Hulk. The thing is that the Hulk. I think they toned him down because he was hyperbolic, to say the least. And when I say that, I mean the Hulk is so strong, he once punched time. That's not a Chuck Norris joke. That actually fucking happened.
See, I've never read the Hulk comic books, so understand, my mind is blown. I think we've had my conversation with comic book heroes anyway. Like, I'm into teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure Hulk has done some amazing things that I probably didn't see in the solo issues.
Yeah. People that were big Hulk fans from way back in the day, that was one of the reasons why Wolverine made such a huge first impression, because he kicked the fucking Hulk's ass. He didn't kill him because there's no way he could. But
he almost did.
They fucked each other up a pretty bit, but Wolverine came out on top, and people were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
As a bit of a comical note, Mark Ruffalo actually said he would have loved to do a movie with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And Hugh Jackman had previously also said he would have loved to be in the Avengers thing, but he was like, yeah, unfortunately that ship's kind of sailed at this point. And I can't say I disagree with Hugh Jackman. He's like getting a bit older, and the fitness routine he had to keep up to keep the Wolverine body was insane. But that is...
LL Cool J does it, he can do it. I don't think Hugh Jackman's older than LL Cool J.
I don't know. But in any case, though,
it's not a matter of that. It's for his personal life. He doesn't want to keep up with that level of intensity.
Yeah,
we ain't worried about his lifestyle. You give me entertaining movies.
But there's also other characters in comic books that they severely toned down in the MCU, like Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is like 1/10. Like, she literally she has essentially the powers of the Reality Stone, but without needing a stone for it.
Which is under a class of characters in Marvel that is labeled as an Omega mutant, or I don't know if it's mutant or whatever, Omega whatever. They're more or less they're gods. They're unkillable. They're almost all powerful. That sort of thing. The Phoenix Spirit is also considered another Omega being. You know, so compare it to that along with Omicron and, you know, a few others in that class. That was where the Scarlet Witch was classified.
Yeah, because I think there was some situation where everybody died, and her solution was, I'm just going to create a reality where everybody didn't die.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I guess that's one way to...
I guess that's how we save lives, right?
Deus Ex Machina much? I'm just throwing that out there. Like, I guess that's way... But there's been other ridiculously overpowered mutants that have popped up, or mutants or superheroes in Marvel Comics. The thing is from the talk on it here, it sounds like the Captain Marvel is actually going to be as powerful as her comic book thing, which unfortunately means that she's going to appear to be greatly, insanely overpowered compared to everybody else. And that's kind of she's just going to be like a super tank. Roll in, Thanos killed it. Shit. You guys. as I'm
spoiler alert, I have not seen that movie yet.
About to spoil Infinity War.
I haven't seen most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I've recently caught up with Black Panther. Thank you, Netflix, for that one. Sadly,
no. On Netflix now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Black Panther's on Netflix. Infinity War is going to be the last of them to go into Netflix because Disney is cutting Netflix off in favor of their own service as of next year. So we'll get Infinity War, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that explains why a lot of the older ones aren't on there too. I've been waiting to see.
Yeah, they had a narrow year range in which their contract was good for. It was like 2017 to or 2016 to 2018, something like that.
Well, see, like I've watched them like spurts. Like I've seen the first Avengers, I've seen the first Thor, I saw the first Iron Man. I was looking for Iron Man 2 and 3, but I can't find them anywhere online. I'm blaming Disney. Because I believe Iron Man 3 in particular used to be on Amazon Prime Video, and I used to be able to just watch it with my Prime. Can't watch that anymore.
Well, yeah,
I did watch Spider-Man: Homecoming this week.
Cap.
Like Spider-Man: Homecoming was actually pretty damn good. But you kind of missed. Did you see Captain America: Civil War as people are?
No, I've not watched Civil War yet. It is on my to-do list.
So unfortunately, you're kind of missing a bit out of here. They are an evolving story, so you don't really understand how.
I missed a little bit.
Oh, a little bit. There's
Civil War. I can tell the story was missing something.
So here's the first thing. For those of you who are saying Team Cap and Team Iron Man, congratulations, all of you are Team Zemo. Just throwing that out there.
Team X-Men. Give me my classic X-Men, my 90s X-Men, my 80s X-Men.
Yeah.
I don't want none of this modern X-Men shit.
Well, the thing is, though, first of all, X-Men should be wrong.
They pussified Cyclops.
Oh, I've always hated Cyclops. I'm sorry. I've never liked Cyclops. He was always boring as shit.
I like Cyclops. He's even more boring when he's not the leader.
He's boring as the leader. He's boring as whatever. Like he's always honestly.
I like him as a leader.
He's an equivalent to classic Superman, honestly.
In mentality wise,
not quite as powerful, but like
I'm gonna say, except for Superman's OP as fuck.
Well, here's the thing: it's like you look at what makes a character interesting is not necessarily how powerful they are. Because Batman, like in the fucking DC movie, it's like, well, what's your superpowers? I'm rich. He does not have any fucking powers. Yes, he is smart. He's got a lot of training, but he is not OP at all. But he is entertaining because of his character.
Yep.
I think that's for me too. And it's also I like characters with vulnerability too.
Yeah.
For example, we talked about this. We talked about how much I love the Ninja Turtles. The reason I love them is because they're not OP. They're vulnerable. They get their asses kicked all the time.
Yeah. Well, even if
the latest rendition of Superman is a lot more entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Mainly because
last I read they where they actually killed the regular Superman. Now they have like this New World Superman. And I hear he's like.
I'm talking about the Henry Cavill. What's his name?
You mean Super Geralt or Clark of Rivia?
Well,
yeah, that works.
Are you referring to movies
Super
or comics?
I'm talking about the latest movies. Their rendition of Superman in there. He is not quite so morally rigid. He's got a little bit of looking down on humanity.
Yeah,
right, and I have to ask you sometimes too, because I'm in comic book mode.
So here's
movies just don't give me enough depth in characters.
Oh no, so Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe does. The DC Cinematic Universe, yeah.
DC Cinematic Universe is dog shit.
They literally tried to rush from zero to the Avengers team up without, like, the Avengers had how many, six movies before the first Avengers movie? So they had a lot of character build-ups.
Like the Hulk, whatever the fuck it was, not the Incredible Hulk, but the one with the guy
Eric
from Troy,
Bana.
I can't remember his name.
Bana.
Yeah, Eric Banner. That was not part of the MCU, but they played off of that storyline when they made the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
With the Fight Club guy, and I cannot remember anybody's name for shit tonight.
Eric Norton.
Yes, him.
Not Eric Norton. I can't remember.
But the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. That one was MCU officially, but it still played off the story of the previous movie.
Yeah, and then at the end of that movie, that was the first appearance of Tony Stark, played by RDJ. Which then you had from there.
I love him as Iron Man.
No, he's great. Unfortunately, he, as he puts it, he's not getting any younger, and there's only so far he can go with that. Now, every movie they've done a great job of really evolving those characters and building them, and they develop over time. And like I said, Captain America: Civil War, I love that movie. It had a lot of depths. Everybody, or like a lot of the DC fanboys out there, would like to criticize Marvel because they're like, oh, it's too lighthearted, it's for kids or whatever. And I'm like, you apparently haven't been paying very much attention, because it's pretty there's a lot of dark shit in there that's not very kid friendly, but they do a good job of having this atmospheric tension that, like, there's a really stressful situation and somebody cracks a joke that really normally wouldn't be all that funny, but because everybody's super stressed and tense, it gives that, like, kind of like kind of like I'm really nervous and laugh more than I should just because I'm stressed out.
Well, like the first Avengers movie, where you look at Stark and Rogers are starting to have a little one-off. It's like, well, you take away that suit, what are you? Billionaire, philanthropist, playboy. It just rolls that right out, like. It breaks that tension that was building up there. Well,
another good one would be actually at the end of the first Avengers movie, where Loki has the scepter, and he's gonna tap on Tony Stark and take over his mind like he did with the other guys, and it just clicks on the little reactor in Tony's chest, and this kind of makes this noise, and he tries it again, and Tony Stark's like having some performance issues. And it's this funny moment of oh shit, he's gonna take over Iron Man, but then it doesn't work, and it's kind of a funny moment because it broke that tension. And the thing is that they've done a little bit of that, but overall they've made serious things very entertaining to watch. Unfortunately, what DCEU has done is that they tried to rush and get to the Avengers side of things, and without any of the character development, and then they try to make it needlessly dark, but now they're starting to be a little bit more campy and jokey with stuff like with Aquaman and the Flash, who unfortunately sometimes seem a little painfully awkward and not like Aquaman, yes, I actually enjoy the fuck out of Aquaman, but Flash, I was like, I really wanted to like him, but he just seemed awkward as hell. And
that's the thing, is like, it's the Flash that they picked, because Flash, among a lot of Flash, not Barry Allen, and also Barry Allen was Flash for a very long time, through the awkward kid stage that they just decided to plug for that movie, all the way up until a season, all the way up to a seasoned superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So that their choice on the point and frame that they decided to pick for the Flash they just picked them up as comic relief, and that was not necessary at all.
Well, there's other things that they did.
I like the enthusiasm that they put behind the characters. Like, I'm looking for, yes, I'll do it. Like, wait, what? I didn't even ask the question. That references like that. Yeah, that's funny for a moment, but his overall character throughout that movie was just like, yeah, no, I'm not feeling it.
The major sin of the Justice League, that what it did was it made Superman pretty much the only really superhero that mattered. Essentially, it's like, like Wonder Woman, by the way, in the comic books, is of equal strength to Superman. She's just as fucking strong as him. But somehow they can't beat dude by himself, so they have to resurrect Superman, who has to essentially do all the work for them because they're incompetent without him. And I'm like, what the fuck is the point of having a Justice League if the rest of the fucking league is pointless? Like Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman.
And that's one of the reasons why I think they picked out the early stage unseasoned Flash for that role, was because the Flash, as he developed skill, became very fucking powerful.
Well, yeah, technically he can. His infinite mass punch, because he's running at the speed of light, he technically has infinite fucking mass. And
like his his ability, as he went and started fucking with time a lot more too, he got a lot more skilled with that as well. There's a lot of things that, the ability to just fucking run through things, like phase shift himself and other crap like that. He got pretty insanely OP after a while.
But yeah,
I just want to say how I'm disappointed how my conversation about a Spider-Man game is turned into this trash DC universe, these trash superhero movies, when people should just be reading comic books.
Let's circle this back around, and I got a question on this.
Let's circle this back to comic books, because that's where you should be taking in your superheroes. Comic books, not movies. Most of these movies suck compared to the comics.
Well, your Spider-Man game that you've played already, I'd asked this question, but I don't remember if you answered it or not. In the game, do they accurately depict Spider-Man's strength?
Keep in mind, I've never really read Spider-Man. I mentioned that earlier. He did pick up some falling debris from a building and lift it over his head to let some people out. He's done some heavy lifting.
Yeah, he can pick up a semi.
Focus on his agility.
He can pick up a semi.
You do catch a car.
Okay.
You do catch a car on a high speed.
Okay, that's getting pretty close there. So yeah, all right, I'm all right with that. I'm not going to go out and buy PS4 just to play that damn game. That's not going to happen. But
no, to me, where I'm at right now, and I don't want to give away my first impressions. I'm gonna say wait for my first impressions. Really go in depth.
As a small side note, Kev, you can't say the movies aren't good if you haven't seen most of them.
I'm saying in general, we've already talked about my beef with movies. They don't do enough character development.
You haven't seen the full extent.
I'm talking about movies in general.
Oh,
this isn't about Marvel. This is about my beef with movies in general. I don't feel like they put enough. There's not enough time to really do real character depth.
So would you say that
you do in games, like you do in books, novels?
Would you say that in a single comic book you get enough character development in a single comic book issue?
No, because it's about the ongoing story that you get for years on years.
Exactly. So, to give you an example, up until just the end of Infinity War has all been the Infinity War arc. That ongoing story. Each movie is almost like an extended issue. It's more like a multi-issue segment.
Well, we've had
so when I get in about 3-4 months out of comic books, because it's about 30 minutes to read an issue, I get once a year.
Takes you 30 minutes to read a comic book?
Marvel. Yeah, about 20-30 minutes.
Man, you read slow. It takes me.
I take my time. I enjoy the artwork. 3 Iron Man movies. To my children.
3 Thor movies. We've got 2 technically. 3 Captain America movies.
Mm-hmm. 3 Iron Man movies.
Over how much time?
I'm up to 12 so far.
So we have 12 movies.
At least.
Or what, about a decade and a half?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which the thing is It does.
But here's the thing: is like it's not a matter of time. Is your complaint was character development? Well, they've taken the time to do that.
My complaint about movies in general is a lack of character development. If we're talking about, and that's why I brought up the comment too. Well, okay, a 2-hour movie equates to what I'd probably get in about 3 to 4 months out of comic books.
Yeah, the 3 to 4 comic books.
Right, and if I get a monthly issue, that's where I'm equating. That's where I'm about.
Well, the time it takes them to release it, I wouldn't say is necessarily the comparative. How long it takes you to read a comic book?
I'm saying that's my personal beef. Like that's my beef.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
I feel like movie, like even something like this, kind of just because how long it takes to produce a movie, takes too long to get to the fucking point.
Well, at this point in time, they're all the whole Infinity War arc is out right now. You can just if you can collect all this shit, you can binge it.
Yeah, and you can start with the Hulk, which was not that great, but you know gives you the first taste of the Hulk, and then the Incredible Hulk, then Iron Man, then Captain America, then Thor, then Iron Man 2. Good God,
it's the first Captain America.
Yeah,
I think it's the first 2. I don't remember if I watched the second one or not.
But you got to realize the thing is that one of the things that the MCU has actually been praised for is doing a good job of developing even characters that aren't necessarily primary characters. You know, like secondary characters that hang around the primary
Pepper
ones.
Potts.
Yeah, like Pepper Potts and that sort of thing. They've done a pretty good job of giving each character, you know, a lot of love. And where you have a movie like Infinity War, where they had all of these fucking characters, Jesus Christ, there's so many of them. Watching it, I still kind of felt like it did a good job, and it did it in a smart way. Instead of having each individual hero going on their own thing and then coming together at the end or whatever, you had them kind of splitting into groups, which I won't spoil any more than that, but you had them splitting into groups so it could focus of, you have these already developed characters that you already know fairly well from the previous movies leading up to this one, so you kind of know their personalities pretty well. And you see them interacting with other characters that you've also seen developed in other movies, so it kind of adds that new dynamic. But at the same time, it then allows them to focus really heavily on developing the character that is almost entirely new, which is Thanos. And people have made the comment of that Infinity War was primarily about Thanos, not necessarily other people. And that's really what it is. And that says a lot whenever your movie is primarily focused on developing your villain. But in case I feel like we've rambled on this.
My feelings still haven't really changed. Like, and it's cool you guys prefer the movies. I'm still probably going to prefer comics.
I'm just saying, give it a shot. I mean, worst case scenario, it's a new experience.
I've seen a lot of superhero movies. It's not like I've never watched a superhero movie. Like I've watched all the X-Men films. I've watched
X-Men.
I watched all of the X-Men. Yeah. I think the first three were really good. The other ones, yeah.
Oh shit!
We've got
X3 was so horrible. X3 was fucking garbage. Like the whole
I thought X3 was okay. I thought X3 was okay. It wasn't
the whole
great,
Phoenix thing,
my favorite superhero
which,
movie.
by the way, now I don't know where this is going to go because obviously Fox is being bought by Disney. But have you seen the kind of rebooted X-Men, which they did in a pretty decent way, by the way? But did you see
what are you talking about?
The McAvoy.
First Class?
Yeah, the First Class rebooted it.
I saw First Class. I thought the movie First Class was okay.
So the X-Men Origins movies are okay, and to include First Class and Wolverine, like I said, okay. There's still holes in like X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it's okay. It's okay. Days of Future Past, there's some more interesting points to it. There's still some lacking there. I found
Days of Future Past entertaining.
The thing is,
it was entertaining. Now the real good one is Logan. That one is fucking insane.
Well, I haven't seen Logan. I forgot about Logan.
You have to.
My favorite of the X-Men movies are still the first two.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I really like the first two, and I really liked X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Did you guys see Apocalypse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apocalypse was terrible.
It was, the problem is that again they did the same exact thing that a lot of the DC movies was making, is that they had tried to throw in a bunch of new characters and rush their development. Like honestly, they should have broke off the Apocalypse saga into multiple movies, like leading up to it.
Like they didn't make Apocalypse as grand as he actually is.
Yeah, like that was something they really didn't do justice to.
That's a fuck of a thing. Is like if Marvel hadn't, and they didn't know then what they know now, but if Marvel hadn't sold off the rights to X-Men to Fox, the MCU would be that much fucking bigger. Well, honestly, they would. If they, here's the thing: is if Disney does reacquire, have they already reacquired it, or is it still in the works?
Both companies have agreed to the terms of the sale, but it still pends SEC approval because obviously it is two major media companies. It looks like the SEC will approve it because part of the deal, Disney agreed to divest all of the sports segment of Fox off, so they're selling off that segment. So that they won't have a majority share into that.
But what we could see in the future is what was I think about 4 or 5 years ago, the big comic book deal in Marvel, X-Men versus Avengers.
Well, and you may actually see that.
Happen.
However, you're probably going to see it in a different form.
I just want to see some great X-Men content again.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the X-Men have been shit on like the last...
if Marvel takes control back over that, you will start seeing great X-Men content again. It's still going to be mostly like PG-13, unless the points where it doesn't apply. Well, I'm not okay with a PG-13 Deadpool.
That's not... I'm not... But yeah, Deadpool's kind of his own thing, though. Deadpool...
Yeah. The thing is Deadpool was even on the Avengers at one point in time.
Yeah.
Right. He's never really like he's.
Well, he's been off and on all over the place all along.
So
he's his own thing.
That's my point. My point with the X-Men is I feel like we just haven't seen a great X-Men story. Where, in my opinion, X-Men are the best team that Marvel has. Period.
So just real quick to respond to Player 3 in chat, do you think the one above all was killed when Thanos snapped his fingers? I'm not going to talk about that because these two guys have not seen that movie, so they don't know.
I'm behind on Spider-Man: Homecoming in that movie. That's it.
Yeah, so we'll
get there as soon as it becomes available to me.
We're not talking about that as much and theorizing. But to go back to the X-Men piece on there, one thing I do think that Days of Future Past did that was great is that it did a good job of taking, without retconning the old original X-Men movies, it rebooted the series, but made it fit within the very typical X-Men way of jumping through different dimensions and universes. You know what I mean?
They did that very well.
Like, I thought that was actually very well done.
There was one fan theory on Logan, because of how raw and real it felt compared to the older PG-13 X-Men movies, that more or less the other sets of movies were a storytelling of what had happened. But the movie Logan was the real world aftermath of that.
Well, there did seem to be there did seem to be a
there was even a reference to them being comic characters.
Well, the thing, no, not just that. Yes, there was, but there was also the reference of
before this ends up into another rant.
Oh yeah,
we're almost 45 minutes in. We haven't even touched our stories.
We also haven't talked about any video games at all. Oh no, we talked about.
I tried to talk about Spider-Man, but you also talk about movies.
We got into comic discussion. That covers movies, comics, games, whatever.
Y'all were talking about
about
comic book characters.
It is all the same thing, Kev. It's all Marvel, all DC, comic books, movies, whatever. The characters are the characters. We can talk about how badly DC fucked up their characters, or how, whatever. The point is that it's Marvel, DC, whatever. It's a nerddom unto itself. But we cannot
scratch the surface.
Yeah, it is a complicated thing. But let's go ahead and first let's switch things up. Let's have a conversation about Take-Two. And when I mean a conversation about Take-Two, I'm saying let's make fun of Take-Two. So to explain the story,
read the story first.
Yeah, so to explain to everybody the background story of this topic here. So Take-Two Interactive recently released a public statement where they were talking about how in NBA 2K they were removing the very egregious loot boxes they had in the game. They were pretty obnoxious in Belgium only. To comply with the Belgian banning all loot boxes as gambling. Like, it's illegal to gamble in Belgium, and they determined that loot boxes were gambling and therefore were not allowed. And so 2K removed the loot boxes in there and released a statement saying, we're removing, it was this very like almost like pouty child announcement of they're removing the loot boxes from the game to comply with the with Belgium's laws. However, you know, if you agree with us that loot boxes aren't gambling, please call your government representative and let them know. Sorry, I had difficulty actually getting that out and saying those words because it was just so it started to actually make me want to like shoot myself. So essentially
a little bit.
Yeah, made me vomit my mouth a little bit. So essentially what 2K is doing is they're trying to use their fan loyalty to make political change. Because even though by the most literal definition of gambling, loot boxes are gambling, they don't believe that and they want to use their fan base to tell Belgian government that that's not the case. So what you guys' thoughts on this? Go ahead. Have fun.
Loot box!
We know Kev.
That's my initial thought. But no. So in all seriousness though, 2K needs to shut the hell up. Knock that shit out. Laws are laws. We don't make law. Well, we shouldn't be making laws for corporations. And we shouldn't be making defenses like this for these corporations.
Yeah, laws should be made to defend the consumer against the corporation, not the other way around. Yes,
exactly. Well, there's actually a similar thing I saw pop up recently with California's net neutrality. The U.S. Telecom is trying to pass around a petition to get people to petition against it, and they're using their own workforce to start signing up for this petition. You know, it's the same kind of crap. It's like, yeah, well, we can't come out right out and admit it, but we're greedy, and we know gambling makes lots of money.
Yeah, and that's it. And yeah, exactly. Belgium is very smart. They're one of the first, but things are hopefully trending more towards that being a continuing thing of loot boxes to be regulated as gambling. Not necessarily that they need to be banned. I think that Belgium might have gone a little bit to the extreme end of it. And I've been very outspoken.
Let them be extreme. I'm very okay with the extreme.
Well, I'm you know, it's their choice to do that if they so wish to take the extreme route. I'm not opposed to that. However, essentially my view on it is that if they want to have gambling and the consumer wants to have gambling, that's fine. But there needs to be some ethical standards put in place for how they are worked. Right now, there's no ethics behind it. It is literally milking the consumers.
In business anymore. Like, we don't give a damn about consumers. Consumers don't give a damn about themselves. Let's look at the whole NVIDIA controversy.
Oh God!
Where I remember people were damage controlling that shit, talking about you know, like a lot of people actually agreeing with Tom's hardware and they just buy it idea. People were arguing with me on Twitter.
Tom wasn't agreeing with Tom. Here, that's the thing.
Oh, did you? Yeah, you guys heard about that controversy, right?
I heard Tom responded, but I haven't heard the response yet. But what my point is, hold on, let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
My point is, people are very fast to defend these corporations, and they're okay with these things just happening to them. There are people out there that are actually upset that these loot boxes are gone. I don't know why, except for the fact that, you know, I think, gone in Belgium. There are people there that think it should be everywhere, because there are people that just want to pay to win. That's just what they like. Hey, if I have the money for it, let me do it. It got to the point where I stopped playing 2K Online at first because I got tired of playing against the guys that dropped $1,000 in the game day one. And I'm like, I just bought the game. I don't want to play against you. And then it got even worse where now they make it like to the point where you had to pay to have a good time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I haven't bought a 2K since 16.
The thing is,
and it's mostly because of that.
I haven't played any of them.
I haven't played 2K in a
Ever?
long time.
I really enjoyed NBA 2K. I thought it was a great simulation series. It's just 2K or Take-Two got greedy.
Take-Two is one of the more greedy publishers out there, but
and they don't get nearly as much shit as EA does.
Yeah, no. The thing is
nobody gets as much shit as EA does.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said on the last podcast, but I'm very kind of outspoken on this. Is that EA is stupid as fuck with their public relations. Their corporate communication strategy is so bad because here's the thing: Activision Blizzard does so much more egregiously anti-consumer shit, but nobody ever hears about it, and nobody really seems to mind that much. They keep buying Activision.
You hear about it. You hear about it from Activision, but we talk about it for a week or two, and then it goes away. It's like the whole crossplay with Sony thing, which I know we're going to talk about a little later.
Mm-hmm.
But when that story first came up, we talked about it for a couple weeks. Sony took their stance. They didn't really respond. They didn't put gas on the fire like EA does.
Yep, exactly. They didn't make.
Hey, if you don't like the game, just don't buy it.
EA, first of all,
how that shit turned out.
First change that EA needs to make to its PR strategy: stay the fuck off of Reddit. Just stay off of Reddit because
Reddit, Facebook,
no.
If AIM was here, I told him to stay off of AIM too. But rest in peace, AIM.
No. The thing is it's not Facebook, it's not Twitter, it's not where this shit really goes wrong for them is every time they try to say some bullshit on Reddit. If you notice, the pride and accomplishment, where was that at? Reddit.
My point is, if it's not on Reddit, it'll mess around and be on Twitter. My thing is, no, just shut up, EA. Put out your game, do your game announcements, and shut the hell up.
Well, the thing is that a lot of times they want to. It's not necessarily that they should shut up. I'm more for them to be transparent. What I'm saying is a PR strategy. A lot of the issues they have is whenever they have, in my opinion, what I see is people that probably are not the best in the means of PR being off the cuff. And that's what Reddit kind of more is promoting is off the cuff kind of interactions. And that's kind of largely what they've...
All this time I thought Reddit was just promoting fanboyism.
Yeah, but no, the thing is, and as I can't say the name, Krakenu, whatever. I'm saying that name wrong. I know it, but Kraksinu, I don't know. Anyway, in chat said that ethics are a myth. Obey your corporate overlords.
Praise Phil Spencer.
Yeah, the thing is, going back to loot boxes.
Thank you, Gaben.
Going back to the loot box thing on there, it would be very, very easy to implement some ethics behind loot boxes, and I've been very kind of outspoken on this. Is number one, publicly disclose the drop rates of all of your loot boxes, all of the items in the loot boxes, what percentage you have of getting said item. Some games have done that, like Path of Exile, I believe, has that listed for all of their loot boxes, if I remember correctly. I don't play the game, so don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty certain they do. And then you have the second piece on there would be to publicly disclose on the labeling, outside labeling, up front in the user's face that the game contains gambling. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Don't try to hide the shit. It's gambling. That's okay. Don't try to fucking lie about it because that's at what point you seem skeezy, right?
See, my whole beef is I don't want it in the motherfucking game.
Well, no, the thing
that's my whole thing. Like, I don't even want it there in the first place. Even if you're going to disclose it, disclose it. But can we just not do it? It's not like you're not publicly traded companies that aren't making millions and billions in profits every year.
No,
we can't afford to do this.
Here's the thing: is that they're not just making millions and millions of profit. They're making billions of profit, and it would be really for example, if Activision Blizzard took out loot boxes, do you realize how much money they would lose? $4 billion of annual revenue. That is a large amount. That is over half.
You want to see my thoughts? Here's how I feel about that.
No, I'm not saying that their gambling revenue is good or bad. What I'm trying to say is that they are fueled by money, by greed. They want to make more profit. Trying to tell them to, hey, toss away half of your annual revenue. That's not going to happen. So instead, try to shape it in a way that is more productive and more ethical. That's what I'm meaning. And by disclosing it, what's going to happen is maybe people that don't like gambling are going to see gambling listed on the front of their game, and they'll choose to pass on that game because they're like, you know what, I don't want gambling. And guess what? That hits the companies in their pocket.
There may be some people, however, that actively seek out that game because of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's that too. My thing is though, like if you're already making millions and billions in profits, and I get, you're a business, you want to keep making money too. Maybe instead of trying to nickel and dime your customers, you find a more efficient way of creating your product. That way you're not out there spending millions and billions on your game.
All right, Kev, jeez, bad with tonight. I cannot hear the phrase billions and billions anymore. Just those words in that order, just like that. Oh.
But no,
millions and millions and trillions,
billions and billions and billions and billions. I saw a clip show of like 45 or well, maybe a minute straight from various different speeches of just billions and billions and billions and billions, billions and billions, billions and billions, and like holy fuck.
So I will throw out something here. So Kev, I do want to dispel a bit of a myth here. Just the one that I see you pointing out there is like, oh, they need to do this for their customers. Got to realize EA, Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, all those guys.
The customers are the investors?
Yes. You are not their fucking customer. You are their product.
That's not what I was getting at, though.
I know.
I guess what I was saying is don't nickel it. I mean, maybe if you're really feeling like you're making too much money or you're not making enough money, instead of throwing this gambling into the game, why don't you make a way to make your process more efficient?
Well, I mean,
you're spending less money.
Well, no. The thing is that
in the first place.
It's not just so they already part of the reason loot boxes are a thing is because they cost very little money to implement. Right? They allow for a very lazy game design because all you have to do is make 1/10 the amount of normal, legit, unique, interesting content that you normally would, then fill the loot boxes with a bunch of fluff and bullshit that takes no time to develop, and then you throw them in loot boxes and it takes people 10 times as long to get the shit that they want because now it's on a random chance instead of being able to get exactly what they want on there. It is hard. It is much harder and more expensive to not have loot boxes. That's not count. That would be even if you are not charging for your loot boxes. If you make them completely in-game earnable loot boxes, it is still much cheaper to do things with loot boxes than without. And that's you
get a Destiny loot drop situation.
Yeah, exactly. Or Warframe. If you took out microtransactions out of Warframe, for example, and with the randomized loot drops or whatever. That's still, it's still cheaper to do things that way as opposed to here, you do quest A, you get reward A. You do quest B, you get reward B, guaranteed every time. That would take a lot, for example, Warframe, the degree of shit that's in Warframe, how many missions they would have to fucking make for you to get that unique reward for each mission, as opposed to randomizing half of it so that they can make a fraction of the missions and have all that shit randomized. The thing is that it's not just that though too. It's A, they're cheaper, and B, they are insanely profitable. And to the point where a lot of game makers have to make a point of saying, yes, we realize they're very profitable, but we're going to ethically choose to abstain. Like CD Projekt Red has made a point several times to say that they will ethically abstain from loot boxes in like Witcher or Cyberpunk 2077, etc. But if they did do away with loot boxes, what do you think? And I feel like I've asked this before, so this is repetitive. we might only briefly touch on this, but what do you think an alternative monetization method would be outside of loot boxes that they could do that wouldn't necessarily be as profitable, but maybe close, or may earn them enough money that would stave off greediness of corporations a little?
There's nothing that's gonna stave off greediness of corporations.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you like, what was it? I think it was The Last of Us, where they were selling you like a hard difficulty. Like, that's greed to the umpteenth power. So yeah, you're always gonna bump into their greed. There's nothing you can do about that.
That here's the thing: is trying to find an alternative, because gambling is excessive. Gambling is excessive, is very, very lucrative. You know, as you've already pointed out before, low input, high gain. It's, you look at the success out in legalized gambling areas. You know, it's a money pit, and the owners get all the money.
What was that spoof movie based on Casino? Where you just walk into the casino and there's just vacuums that suck their money out of their pockets.
Mafia, I think, was the name of the movie. Which, yeah, it's just like, you know, lose your money here, and they just shove it into a hole. That's the game.
Yeah, that's the game. There's no,
and that's pretty much what fucking gambling is. So, you know, trying to find an alternative that has that potential behind it is going to be very fucking hard, because almost anything else, they're going to have to put a lot more into it to get that much out. And of course, you look at the margins are not going to be the same.
Yeah, and I mean, there are games like in chat, you know, like Fortnite skins. No, if you look at, like, say, League of Legends or Warframe or whatever, they have direct buy skins, which actually are very profitable. And they are one method that, like, direct purchasable cosmetics are actually a great way to make money on a game. And generally, they express creativity of your creators because you're coming up with new shit. Hell, even if you're smart, like what Warframe has done and what Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2 have done, get your community to make the skins for you. They get a little kickback on it themselves, so they're making a little money, you're making a little money, and you're having to do no fucking work for that at all. Right?
And
that one is a good alternative. And if they work it out right, they could get a huge gain out of it, or a decent gain.
But the problem with that is then they're going to get inspired by Bethesda. Hey, paid mods.
The thing is though, is that paid mods, not necessarily, because obviously Valve has been doing fucking paid cosmetic, user created paid cosmetics and skins. CSGO, Jesus Christ, that is a multi-million-dollar market, right? CSGO skins.
Yeah.
Some of the ultra rare ones go for thousands of fucking dollars. I don't get it. I really don't get how a skin for a game can go for thousands of dollars.
Well, that's just one game.
That's just one game, you know. So it is
one knife in CS:GO.
Yeah, that's one fucking knife skin, and I'm like, I don't really get that shit, but you know, whatever. To each their own. I think that would be a possibly very lucrative opportunity for a lot of guys, especially like, say, Overwatch. Jesus Christ, you imagine if they started doing user created skins where they charge $3-5 for a skin, and a portion of that went to the creator, portion of that went to Blizzard. They make shit tons.
You're inching really close on Creators Club, sir. You're making me worried.
No, that's how Team Fortress 2 and CS:GO skins work. The users, like people in the community, make the skins. They put them up on the Valve marketplace. People buy those skins. The creator gets a chunk. Valve gets a chunk. That's how the system works.
Yep.
And that's what Creators Club tried to do, but they tried to do it with more. They tried to get too big for their britches, and you saw how the community reacted. Right, the community like kicked them out the fucking door. Whereas Team Fortress 2, CS:GO, Warframe, they make tons of money off of the shit. So you can see like the community knows where that line is. It's pretty well established. But the next question I have on there, do you think that more of these video game developers are going to step up and try to push back against Belgium?
I think what's probably going to happen is they're just going to stop releasing their games there.
Well, they're going to try and push back. It's just a matter of how they're going to do it and will it work. The biggest problem is you're not going to have any country entertainment market that is as big as the U.S. unless you're, with the exception of, worldwide named football, not American football, but the international football that has a bigger entertainment market outside of the U.S.
Are you talking about
but generally any other entertainment market, you do not have as big or the market is not as big in any single country as it is in the U.S.
And FIFA Ultimate Team,
they're going to try and push back a bit. Yeah, they're going to try and push back against Belgium. The head-to-head that comes with that, I don't know who's going to win out on that one, but more than likely, there's a good possibility that the citizens of Belgium may end up getting hurt over that one. Whereas, okay, the publishers, they lose out on some sales to Belgium, but the people of Belgium lose out on access.
Yeah. My other question on there, like FIFA Ultimate Team is obviously the gorilla in the room when it comes to loot box gambling. It was the first. Oh no, it wasn't the first. It was kind of I would say it's probably the biggest loot box gambling simulator in the gaming world right now. We haven't heard much, surprisingly, from EA on this. Do you guys think the EA may try to subtly do something to They seem to be backing off of their loot boxes a bit recently because of Battlefront.
Oh, they said they're not going away.
Oh no, they're not going away. They're still in FIFA Ultimate Team.
They're back.
So they're not going away. That's their big money maker. That's their $700 million money maker. They're not getting rid of Ultimate Team. It's not as big as Overwatch. Overwatch is $1 billion loot box simulator. But my question is, do you think that they'll try to find a way to circumvent or preempt that move? Is my question.
I don't know.
Again, it depends on where the market is and how big that market. I guarantee had some pushed in the U.S., you'd see a huge immediate response from all of the big publishers. Mm-hmm. First off, not only would they be pushing a propaganda or like a media propaganda, a PR push on that, but there to be immediately litigation flying on that one.
Yeah, well, and unfortunately, in the U.S., corporations have considerably more power than in Europe.
Yes.
I say that, but with the caveat of that doesn't mean that everything is better in Europe. Just to make that clear, it has
There's
its
ups and downs anywhere you go in the world.
Yeah, exactly. But let's move a bit further east though, east of the United States. And let's talk about the best gaming experience and how the reason why you should not let multiplayer be cross-platform is because you don't want to spoil the best TM gaming experience out there. Sony in their infinite wisdom, I love them so much. They can't help it. Stab themselves in the face.
Dumb shit sometimes.
So Sony recently said that came out and explained the reason why they do not allow cross-platform play is because they believe that the PlayStation is the best gaming experience, and they don't want to take away from that.
You know what I say? They're trying to pull an Apple. But they're not Apple, so they're not going to be able to pull it off as skillfully.
They don't have the market share that the iPhone did in the United States, unfortunately.
It's not bad. They're not outright just running such an aggressive PR marketing campaign as Apple has been doing. Once Steve Jobs started pushing it way back when in the mid 2000s.
Well, and the thing is that how Steve Jobs did it with Apple is he didn't decree to people that that iPhones were a superior experience. He tried to subtly convince people that, hey, look at the other people who are involved in this, right? Look at how cool these people are that have iPhones. iPhone is for the hip and trendy crowd. The cool people all have iPhones. Sony isn't doing that. Sony's saying, yeah, we're the best because reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, well, after a while, Steve Jobs was doing that. He's up, and Sony has done no ramp up. They're trying to go in without lube, and it's not. There's going to be some backfire.
Well, the problem also is with Sony, and it's something you got to keep in mind too. They're the best because they've sold the most consoles. I think, you know, and as someone who's owned all of the consoles this generation, in terms of arguments for console, I'd agree that Sony in large part is the best place to play single player games, at least.
Nope.
Multiplayer, I'm not talking about PC right now. I'm talking about in terms of just console.
Doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter?
PC is a console as well. They're all platforms.
Yeah.
They're all gaming platforms.
But not in terms of what Sony's marketing.
I don't care what Sony's marketing.
You can say that. I know you don't.
That's propaganda.
I'm not. Let me finish. Let me finish. I'm saying from the standpoint of where they're approaching at, I get it. It makes sense in terms of just traditional living room consoles. I'm going to exclude PC in what I'm talking about here. I would almost agree, except for when it comes to multiplayer. I think Xbox still has a better platform for multiplayer compared to the other consoles. Yes, PC is superior in most every other way, but I don't think any of the console manufacturers are really even considering.
So you remember a while back, whenever Sony was like, "Yeah, we've beaten Xbox so soundly, we're gonna take a look at the PC. We're gonna start competing."
I remember that when they came out the PS4 Pro, and I remember that massive L they took too.
Yeah,
they shut the hell up right afterward and stopped talking about PC.
Yeah,
and now when they talk about the competition, they only talk about the other consoles after they held their L.
Right? Exactly. There's a very good reason for that. Here's the thing: is that I do not believe it is in the consumer's best interest to play on the grounds of Sony's marketing campaign. Good night, player 3-3R. But because here's the thing: is that if I more or less tell you, okay, Kev, I want you to jump up and down, but before you can jump up and down, here I'm going to give you 300-400 pounds of weights to hold. That's kind of what their marketing campaign is doing. It's kind of excluding their actual competition that is better than them, that does things better than them, in order to make themselves look better. It's like that stereotype of like the average looking person that surrounds themselves with uglier people so that they look better, and therefore I'm
not saying you're necessarily wrong. I'm not even saying I disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, just from what I've read from Sony's previous, more recent statements,
mm-hmm.
that I believe that that's how they're approaching it. I think
it's how they're trying to approach it.
Oh, I think they're totally approaching it that way, and I think they're going to get. I think they're actually going to get away with it because at least in the U.S., where I think this is most of a conversation, U.S., Europe, Japan, where consoles are actually prevalent, people just, how do I put it? People believe that, well, you play PC or you play console. Like people believe in. I mean, you hear it from people on here. Even here, people are like, well, PC's better. I'm not buying a console.
Yep.
So if I'm looking at this from the perspective of, well, PC's better, I'm just not going to buy a console, then you're not even my customer. You're not even in my market because you're unwilling to purchase my product.
And
like we're not even talking together at this point.
Yeah, so but that's looking at an outright loss of money right there. Here's the thing: is like
how is it a loss of money if you're not?
There's a lot of PC players used to be console players. Now, getting into PC has been a very convincing experience of not wanting to go back to console. So those console makers should be trying to convince me on why I should want to come back, why I should want to add this to my PC experience, instead of, just like, well, it's either this or that. Like, well, then that's just already solidifying my choice on, sticking with PC and PC alone. If they just outright ignore me instead of saying, hey, this is a good edition, it's complimentary at least, something, then they're going to lose out on sales on that.
Yeah, they're going to leave money on the table, but how much money are they really leaving on the table if they're already, lead in what they're
when the biggest
and again, and I'm not telling you
gaming market is in PC.
So here's
I couldn't even hear you. We started at the same time. What I'm not telling you that you're necessarily wrong. I'm saying this is the position I believe they're taking.
Oh no, and here's the thing: is that I kind of understand the position you're taking. That's why I'm not disagreeing with you on here. But as a market share perspective, PC has 30% of the gaming market. Mobile has 50% of the gaming market, and the consoles divvy up that last little chunk. Right, it's actually 35%. It was PC had the metric was PC had 35%. The consoles divvied up that last 15%. And I think it was Sony had 8 or 9. I think it was 8, 9, or 10, and then you had Xbox with 2 or 3. And point is that Sony.
I agree with what you're saying. The problem with that is perception is reality.
It's not.
Truly believe something. Well, no. I'm saying the reason I'm saying that is if people truly believe something is true, it doesn't matter how many facts you throw at them. People are stupid.
That is true.
People are going to believe what I believe is true.
That is
if
true.
I believe that there are more PlayStation players in the world because say in my local area, people I know play PlayStation, and I don't know anybody who plays PC, then to me, PC is still a desert land until you prove to me otherwise.
Well, even if you prove to them otherwise, that may not be the case.
Well, here's the thing: is as a player,
you're going to run with that.
Yep.
As a player, as a consumer, that is one angle. But the thing is from the people who are running Sony, they should be looking at real world numbers. They should not be looking at it from the average consumer point of view.
Here's the thing.
This is the market share I need to be targeting. I need to be targeting this 35%, not this 2%.
Yeah, well, the thing is, here's the thing. I have no doubt that Sony is well and keenly aware of the market share that PC holds, and mobile, for that matter.
I think that's why they made the comment a few years ago. And then they realized, oh, wait.
Yeah.
We can't actually sell this to most PC players. The only PC players that are going to buy a console tend to be people who are fan of those consoles already. I've always been a PlayStation fan. With the exception of the 3, I didn't like the 3. I've generally always liked PlayStation. So, I'm probably going to end up buying one at some point anyway because I like the game Sony releases.
Yeah.
There's a common thing I read amongst PC player, primary PC players is I like to do a lot more on my desk, with my full rig set up. But so there's sometimes I like to sit down and relax on the couch and play games too. Those people are most likely not gaming through a Steam Link. Those people are most likely gaming through a console. Now, if you have a console that is going to have a more adept mix of what you already got going on in your office and be able to tap into some of those resources, without actually tapping into the physical hardware resources like a Steam Link, who's going to do it better? Well, Microsoft has their what not crossplay, but what is it?
Xbox Play Anywhere.
Yeah, Play Anywhere.
I love Xbox Play Anywhere.
And that's the thing is they're getting a market from that where you buy it once, you can play it on either system, and they're pulling some PC players because of that. Well, not pulling them, they're double dipping some PC players because of that. And Sony, well, they're just outright losing them.
I think Sony's trying to figure it out. You see them doing things, especially with PlayStation. They're doing things with PlayStation Now. They just put Bloodborne on PlayStation Now. A year or two ago, they were PlayStation Now on PC. No. I really think that they're really trying to push this as an alternative for PC players. Hey, you want to play these games? We get it. You don't want to buy this console. Try the streaming service that we put out there. We've already put money into. Is it a good solution? I don't think so.
I think it is.
Is it? I don't. And I even made a tweet earlier. I consider if I got all the games day one on PlayStation Now, made it a little more like Xbox Game Pass. The problem is, I was on it. I made a little dummy account and went on and tried to do the 2 weeks PlayStation. Or not 7 days of PlayStation Now, the demo they offer. And the PlayStation 4 games take so long to load I sat for about 4 or 5 minutes just waiting for Bloodborne to just load.
Yeah.
Wow.
To the point where I was just like, screw this. Like, I'm not about now. The PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 3 games were fine, but it was.
Well, you also
like,
got to look at the size of those games versus PS4 games. PS4 games are built on a Blu-ray size capacity, which is significantly larger than the DVD size of.
Yeah,
PS3 was Blu-ray, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was, but I don't think they're playing these off disc.
No,
I think that would be horribly inefficient. I believe they have all these saved.
No, they're not playing them off disc. I'm just looking at. I'm looking at the size of the developers are allotting for their games then versus now. Then they were allotting them for limited disc size, and at this point in time, that's even out the window. That's even the modern consoles like, oh yeah, it's got a Blu-ray player, but we're not even restricted by Blu-ray sizes at this point.
Well, here's the thing.
Because at this point, all the console really does, it downloads some preliminary information, a couple gigs of data, and then it's really off the disk, and then it's just downloading everything else. But the point I was trying to make is that this is like an unreasonable amount of time because you're just streaming the data. It's not like Xbox Play Anywhere where it's an actual native PC game. You are accessing it over your whole internet connection, and all of the hardware and shit that's happening here is happening on Sony's side. You're supposed to be playing it, what they say, you're playing it off an actual PS4. I don't think you're actually playing it off an actual PS4. I think you're playing it off a server that probably has the specs allocated out off VM or something, where it's oh yeah, well you have something that's equivalent to a PlayStation 4.
So here's my thing. Here's my thing is that I guess I should have expounded upon what I meant when you said it wasn't a good solution, and I said yes, it was. I should have expounded upon that. I've rehashed this opinion many times that I think that you should make a compelling hardware component that entices me to buy it without you needing to, you being Sony, Microsoft, whoever, without you needing to hold games hostage in order to force me to buy your hardware. That just tells me that you're not confident in your hardware and have to rely on alternative means to sell it. So doing something like PlayStation Now, although not very well implemented because frankly they don't have a lot of the infrastructure resources that Microsoft has.
Right, but that's my beef with PlayStation Now right now is I don't feel like it's very well.
Yeah, it's not really done. But my point is,
start running space off of Amazon.
Yeah, my point is though is that if they implemented some sort of solution like, for example, what's the Sony or no, what's Origin Access? They started doing something like Origin Access, where you can download the game or download an emulator.
That's what Xbox Play Anywhere is. That's what Xbox Game Pass is.
Yeah,
like Xbox Play Anywhere are native PC games. You go into the Xbox app, it connects to the Microsoft Store.
Well,
you download Gears of War, and it is an actual PC.
Well, because the problem is that a lot of these games, right, are that you can't force the developers to make a PC version. If they make a PlayStation version, they make a PlayStation version. My point is that you develop and implement a virtualized emulator, which you then download to the person's computer who is playing it, right? And then in that and the reason why I want to do a virtualized emulator on here is so that way, if you stop playing for it, because I know how the business works, right? They want to make sure that you can't pirate and you can't, because obviously Sony is like Ubisoft. They think all PC gamers are pirates, right? You can't pirate, you can't mod, you can't do anything to alter the game in any way that Sony doesn't want you to do, right? Gives them control, it entices them, it makes them okay with this. So a virtualized emulator, which is essentially a PS4 in a box, so to speak, a software box. And then
so you're talking about doing a VM like I was.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, a VM. And then you go into the PlayStation store on that VM. It looks like a PlayStation interface, right? Like you're on a PS4. Browse into the store, you access whatever games that they have on that marketplace, and you download them to your computer in that VM, and then you play them locally. No streaming.
Right, yeah, and that's almost how it is. Have you actually ever seen the interface for PlayStation Now? I know you said historically you weren't a PlayStation fan, so that's what I'm asking.
I have seen it, and that's similar to how it works, but that functionally the architecture is not how it works. It does not
exactly. Because I think the only thing that's really missing from what you're saying is the actual downloading of it, as far as user interface.
Yeah, what I'm saying,
because what it does is you go in, like I'm opening it now. You go in there, say I click Red Dead Redemption. You guys can't see my screen; it's probably on a screen share. And then you would just hit start, and it actually starts the game.
Yeah, and it starts streaming it.
It starts streaming it. Now, my beef with this is like when I hit start, Bloodborne never started for me. I waited 5 minutes and then cut it off. And say, hey, let me try some other games. I tried Killzone 2. Killzone 2 was up within a minute. I tried the original Ni no Kuni on PS3. Was up in about a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with Bloodborne. I tried it again with the remaster of God of War 3 on PS4. Same thing.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, so this thing isn't actually viable for PS4 games, or maybe I should have done more testing. But I'm like, at that point, I'm like,
yeah,
like the best games on here are PS3 games, and I don't even get like the full library of them. Might be better off, spending the same $100 I would have spent in a year for a PS Now. Go buy a used PS3, which I can probably get for like $70 right now, and just buy the games that I'm looking for. PS3 games are cheap because it wasn't a very popular console, though for some reason it's holding its value as opposed to the Xbox 360, which I've seen Xbox 360s go used for like $25 at this point.
Yeah. Well,
not from any retailer, but just like people selling them for like $25. I've yet to see a PS3 go for below $75.
Yeah. Well, and my other thing on there, my main point of why I was saying kind of have it downloaded into, I guess the term I'm looking forward to that most people would connect with that might be listening is a sandbox, right? It's an isolated software segment within your computer that you can't necessarily interact with unless they want you to. And
so like they do with the Xbox One titles that you download.
Kind of, but that's because the software in those are handled in a different manner. It's not unlike a soft or a sandbox in some ways, but the UWP is operating on a different infrastructure that you can't directly interact with from within Windows because it's outside of Windows, if that makes sense. It's not that it's a sandbox within the Windows UI that you're used to interacting with. It's that the Windows UI is in UWP. Weird. It was a little bit easier to notice that in Windows 8, because Windows 8, if you go to the start menu, which was the default screen, you click on desktop, and it was almost like desktop was an app. That is kind of how it works, except for it's a little bit smoother and not as janky on 10. In any case, though, I think that if they did that, where you download it to your computer, run it locally using hardware acceleration, hopefully with DirectX or some other kind of local graphics API, etc., that can translate to PS hardware, then you would actually have a legitimately good PlayStation experience on the PC, and then it would allow PlayStation to reap some of the, like, there's so many people that want to play games like Spider-Man and like God of War and Last of Us and all these games, but they already
want to buy your hardware.
They don't want to buy the hardware, and I can't blame them. I think the hardware is fucking garbage. Yeah. PS4 Pro is garbage. It is not worth the money that it takes to fucking make it. If they started selling me something a little bit more compelling as a hardware component, then I would consider it. It's not that I'm not a fan of Sony. It's just that I'm not really a fan of anybody. I'm a fan of who gives me the best product for my fucking money. And if Sony,
right? When I was saying you weren't a fan of Sony, because you had mentioned before you never owned a PlayStation.
No, that's because yeah, and we traded off, and that was mainly the reason. I just ended up with the Xbox. And he ended up with the PlayStation, and we swapped off. It was more coincidence than anything. We also
I got the impression that you just like you didn't like PlayStation, maybe you didn't like their games.
Oh hell no,
the reason I buy Sony consoles is because I like their games.
For example, I played.
The reason I buy Nintendo consoles too.
I played a huge amount of hours into Metal Gear Solid 2, right, on PlayStation 2. I actually tried out the port of it to Xbox, the original Xbox.
I heard it was trash.
It was horrible. It was so sluggish.
Complete trash.
it was so sluggish, so it felt like you're running underwater compared to the PS2 version. And that game was a lot of fun on PS2. So much depth for a game that just, like, for example, I didn't realize that the PlayStation 2 had pressure sensitive buttons until I played that game. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
PlayStation 2 is a solid console.
Yeah. To me, honestly, for its time, it was probably one of the best actually, I would say it's probably the best console I think ever made, in my opinion.
A lot of people say the PlayStation 2 is their favorite console of all time. I'm more biased to the PlayStation 1. I really prefer the PlayStation 1. I think that was just where I was at in life too. Like when I got my PS2, I was a senior in high school, getting ready for college. So like most of that generation, I'm like, I was doing what, I would say 18 to 22-year-old does. I wasn't worried about video games as much as I was chasing girls. I was doing the college thing. I was graduating high school. I got the PS2 my senior year in high school. It came out, I think, when I was a sophomore or junior. So like I was so focused on other things that I didn't play it a ton. And then when I did get around to playing, I basically just played like sports titles mostly on it. And I'm trying to think. And the X-Men games, the X-Men Legends games, I love.
Metal Gear Solid 2 was actually the first game I got for. I bought that before card.
I did buy Metal Gear Solid 2. I didn't like it, but I think it's mostly because I don't like stealth games.
So yeah, I've always liked stealth games, so that was an easy move for me. I played Metal Gear
Siphon Filter.
Well, Metal Gear Solid 2 for PlayStation 2. I played Metal Gear Solid for the original PlayStation.
Yep.
That one I had a lot of fun with there, and when the new system came out and that game was available with it, I bought it a year after release, thereabouts.
With the original PlayStation with stealth games, I did love Siphon Filter. I enjoyed Siphon.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh yeah, that one was fun. That one wasn't a complete stealth game. It had stealth elements. This is an action adventure shooter with stealth elements.
Yep.
So
third person action adventure with stealth elements.
I mean, that's most games now. Spider-Man has some of that. Doing stealth elements with Mary Jane. I'm like, I don't want to do.
Yeah, but so in any case,
Spider-Man.
Just to kind of keep moving on here, so we can rant about our third company of the night. Not really ranting so much as just a curious observation. So obviously there was an interview where BioWare lead Mark Darrow was talking about how the development of Anthem would kind of influence the development structure that they did with Anthem would influence Mass Effect and Dragon Age development in the future. And naturally the internet blew up. That was confirmation, of course, that they were going to make Dragon Age and Mass Effect into MMO looter shooters, endless grind, that whole thing. Which, as much as I would love to throw, as much as I would love to throw shade on BioWare because they're still on my shit list for Andromeda, that was obviously a case of internet hyperbole going kind of awry. The thing is, though, is that one of the things after that, as a response, it was almost priceless that they made a follow-up comment about how these, like, Mass Effect and Dragon Age, future development of them, would keep true to their core principles of what made them unique. And
do they remember what made them unique?
So here's the thing: is that Dragon Age. Each Dragon Age game, there's been 3 of them. All 3 of them have been so
wildly
different. Having a core principle of Dragon Age is silly. Mass Effect, while 2 and 3,
Mass Effect has seen a lot of changes too.
Yeah, the core principles of Mass Effect 1 definitely did not carry over into 2. 2 was so drastically different, not necessarily in a bad way, but it was so drastic.
Improvement.
Yeah, it was like there's certain ways I think they kind of went away from the RPG a little bit more towards actiony, which I didn't think it was bad. It fit for the genre, honestly. But
I wish they would have kept it a little more RPG for Mass Effect.
In some ways,
Mass Effect. I don't really truly don't feel, and I've had arguments with this. I remember the arguments I've had with Major about this. Major Stupidity. I don't feel like Mass Effect 2 and 3 are like RPGs at all.
No, they're not.
The original one was a good RPG. I feel like Mass Effect 2 came and they dropped that shit real quick.
I feel like I have a lot more restricted opinion on what is an RPG, mostly because RPG is way too goddamn vague in today's lexicon, if you will. Like everything's
RPG in today's
everything.
era feels like, oh, do you have a skill tree? Well, it's an RPG. They call Horizon Zero fucking Dawn an RPG. That game is not an RPG.
I've heard people call
it is an action game with the stealth with the skill tree.
It's a third-person action adventure game with stealth elements.
Depth into it. There's not a lot of stealth. There's not a lot of stealth. Actually,
yeah, there is. Yeah, you stalk things. It's not. When I say stealth elements, I don't mean it's a Splinter Cell, right? I mean that like you can stalk things and kind of sneak around a little bit, which you can with HCZ.
I'm not saying that you can't. I didn't say you can't do it.
Yeah.
I said there's not a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, difference. So there is some. There's some particular enemies that'll fuck you up, so you want to dodge them.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't think there's a ton of it. There's not from what I've seen. I think I put about 10, 15 hours into it.
But my point is that I've gotten a bit more restrictive on my RPG definition too.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's purely an action game. It is an action game to the level of Tomb Raider.
Well, and what I mean by that is, like, for example, games where you have a character that is that you are having to. I'm trying to think of how to word this carefully on here. A game where you have a character that you have only certain ways that you can respond. For example, like Witcher 3. You have 3 conversational choices, but it doesn't really matter the way you respond because every response is going to be kind of shaped by Geralt's personality, right? They're all going to be kind of dry, sarcastic, like typical Geralt, right?
Or you could do it like Fallout 4, which is even probably a better example. No matter what you say, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Then you can say, fuck, I'm not doing this, and you're going to do it anyway.
And that's not...
Because Fallout 4 isn't an RPG. I love Fallout 4, but it is an action game.
And The Witcher 3 isn't what I would consider an RPG either. A lot of people disagree with me on that. They think that it's one of the greatest RPGs of all times. But the thing is you're not really... In the loosest term, there's a lot of games that could be considered RPGs, like Shadow of Mordor could be considered an RPG. Batman Arkham City could be considered an RPG because you were
action games with skill trees.
Well, it's because you are playing in the role of Batman or of
not even the skill tree.
When I play NBA 2K, I'm playing the role of LeBron James. That doesn't make it an RPG.
Real quick, Ghostly Cashew, thanks for the follow and the host on Mixer over there. But yeah, no, it's not just the Mixer. Go ahead, Xaiphen, and go ahead. What you were going to say.
I was going to say, like, Metal Gear Solid 2 referred to itself as a kind of playing game.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is that when you're putting yourself in the shoes of a character and you're playing as that character, kind of role playing as them. My major issue on that is that that makes every game, that makes Call of Duty a fucking RPG. You're role playing as a soldier that apparently can shoot somebody in the head from 20 yards away with a sniper rifle by touching it to their eye for 5 seconds, or 0.5 seconds. Excuse me.
It's like I feel like Western RPGs, especially, have gone to the direction of does it have a skill tree? Well, then it's an RPG.
Yeah.
Japanese RPGs have gotten to the point. Well, does it have turn-based combat?
Well, no. Final Fantasy X, or no, Final Fantasy 15. Sorry, didn't have time combat, right?
Final Fantasy 15 doesn't.
Yeah,
but I'm saying there's a lot of games that are coming out from Japan that are just the only thing that really makes them a JRPG
is turn-based
the
combat.
fact that they have, that's what I'm getting at. Not all of them.
Yeah.
Hell, I'm playing Persona 5. We've heard me sing the praises of Persona 5. Back there, Persona 5. And it's a good game, but it's one of those games where the only thing that, in my opinion, makes it really an RPG is you can craft things, and you have a few conversation choices that again don't mean anything, and you can get turn-based combat.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no real like adapting that role. You are Joker, who is really just a face with no name brand. Like, he has his own story there already. You're not really adding anything to it. You're just playing and experiencing his story like you would experience God of War.
Yeah, and the thing is that like when I look at a game like Divinity Original Sin 2, for example.
Yeah, that's a great. Or hell, as we've been looking at this podcast, I'm looking for prices for Pillars of Eternity 2.
Yeah. So I'll get to that one in a minute. But Divinity Original Sin 2 specifically, you have one of the origin characters, or you can create your own. But in the case of the origin characters, there are conversational choices. Actually, not just for these origin characters, but with the origin characters, you have conversational choices that are unique to those characters, right? For example, Sybil the Assassin has some really kind of like sadistic, like fatalistic comments that she can make in response to what people are saying. Sybil, sorry. Yeah, Sybil.
Okay, yeah, Sybil. Yeah. Sybil, from what I've played, she's something else. Did you ever beat Pillars?
That's not Pillars. That's Divinity.
Oh, not Pillars. I'm sorry, Divinity. Yeah, Divinity too.
I
Did you beat it? Because I still haven't beaten it.
I've beat it a couple of times now. I don't think you've noticed, but I have more than 350 hours in that game.
No, I
just started a new playthrough since the definitive edition released. But
no, and like no, and it's all good. Like, I'm not knocking you. I just we've had this discussion. I play a lot of games where you play less games, but you put a ton of hours into it.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, though,
I'll put 20 hours into one game and be done with it.
But the thing is, though, is that just let me real quick
on that. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick to finish on that. Not only do you have those conversational choices that are kind of unique to those characters to encourage you to fit into the role of that character, but the game allows you to express your own way of doing things. It doesn't shoehorn you in, like I said with Geralt in The Witcher, where you have 3 conversation choices, but doesn't matter which choice you make, they're all going to have Geralt's kind of dry wit and sarcastic demeanor. With Divinity, you kind of do things however you see fit, and the idea is you're supposed to put your shoes into your character, imagine what your character's personality is, and play according to their personality. That's role-playing, which you don't do in a lot of games anymore, like Mass Effect.
Right.
You don't necessarily always have complete freedom of choice. They try as best they can. So that's where, especially with the first one. But anyway, go ahead, Xaiphen. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, recoined the term to character builder. And, some people are going to think like, well, their skills. No, I mean building the character, not the skills, not skill builder.
Or not the
character
face.
Builder. Or character developer, character shaper, whatever. A builder is, character builder is a little bit more of a better catch-all term, I think. So instead of being labeled as an RPG, label it as a character builder. You build and develop a character throughout the progression of this game.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some. There may be some of these may have more stringent guidelines than others. But either way, they're guidelines, not strict rules.
Now, this is a big caveat to this, what I'm about to say, because this is still in development and could change drastically before it releases. But what is being claimed about Cyberpunk 2077 looks like it will be a good example of a role-playing game. The character nicknamed V that you build will have their own stats, will have their own backstory, their own attitude, and that sort of thing, which will play into the way in which you interact with them in their world, and kind of their helping you'll be able to do as you wish with a lot of things, but you'll find certain things are easier based upon the backstory or the character type of your character. If you're like a mercenary that's oftentimes works for corporations, well, you'll have an easier time getting work from corporations than if you're the rebel that's anarchist and that sort of thing. That's supposedly the way it'll work. Big caveat, that's all rumors and speculation. We've seen none of that. That could change completely. But if that is the case, that would be a good role-playing game. That being said, whenever they talk about the core principles specifically of Mass Effect and Dragon Age, going back to the topic on here, I want to say with the most recent iterations of both games, there was a drastic turn in the developmental style of those games. Most notably, not necessarily agreeable to a lot of people that were fans of the original games, like the Mass Effect 1 and Dragon Age Origins. A lot of the people that I've heard anecdotally that saw Inquisition and Andromeda felt that they have already eschewed their their core principles already. And my question is, do you guys agree with that statement? Do you think that the BioWare has already abandoned those franchises' core principles? And if so, what do you think there's any merit to what they're saying?
Well, I think that they've abandoned it. I don't think they ever really got an established core principle for Dragon Age. First off, Dragon Age, like, it started off as like a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate. For the first game, felt very much so like a CRPG in third person, and then they went to this game, which wasn't friendly on consoles. So they made some Dragon Age 2 control scheme that was, this is more friendly toward consoles, but it sucks on mouse and keyboard. Then they tried to blend the two in Dragon Age 3 or Inquisition. And I think the Dragon Age Inquisition is probably, in terms of gameplay, is the best Dragon Age game, but they're all over the place. Like, I don't know what to expect, and the only thing I really come to Dragon Age now for is an amazing story. Then you got Mass Effect Andromeda. I felt like making Mass Effect Andromeda open world and more about exploration killed what Mass Effect was truly about, was this epic space opera. Gameplay, again, is the best gunplay, and I'd even say the way you use the powers and the way they really compounded on the explosions in Mass Effect Andromeda, best in the series.
Eventually, not a first. Those explosions are so weak.
Like, looking at the original intention,
but where Andromeda really fell apart was the storytelling.
Yep. The key,
and it was lack of polish.
The core principle of the game being its character-driven storytelling, and the characters were weak. The storytelling was weak, so it kind of already betrayed its core elements.
Exactly.
In advertising, now I'm going to reach way back here. In advertising Mass Effect, because this is what drew my attention to the game, is what currently lists as a lot of open world games for the most part is sandboxes. People say, oh, it's open world. Well, some of them are a little bit, but like, as the Ghost Recon Wildlands is, been labeled as open world. No, that's a sandbox.
Mm-hmm. It's a sandbox.
I think Assassin's Creed games classify a little bit more into the open world factor.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's a little bit more.
Elder Scrolls is a sandbox.
Assassin's Creed, I'd even call it it's a sandbox too, in the fact that I can't truly go wherever I want to. Like, Assassin's Creed does have invisible wall. Well, not invisible walls, but they have that. Oh, if I go out of my border, I am going to desync and die.
That's true.
Like Battlefield does. Hey, if I leave the battle, if I go too far off the battlefield, I can see that over there, but I can't go over there because they'll kill me in 5 seconds.
And that's the catch on what really truly defines open world versus sandbox. Is there really a difference? Is it just a bigger sandbox? But not trying to get into that.
When you want to look at open world, I think you should really look at The Witcher. The Witcher 3, I think, did open world.
I've not gotten that far yet, but maybe that is correct. I'm making guesses on some of these at this point. A game I'm familiar with, it's classified as open world. Wildlands, I do not see that as open world. I see that as straight out sandbox. It's a big sandbox, but it's still a sandbox. You're in one narrowed down area. You cannot travel outside that country, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I think open world more the world is open to you. A great example of open world, despite all the, I don't know how good the game is at this point because I abandoned it long ago. No Man's Sky, that was truly open world. That was open universe. But it, like, obviously there was a lot of limitations on that and that factor. But still, you could go to a world and wander around the entirety of that world. That was a true open world game. But Mass Effect, as it was originally advertised, part of the advertising PR on there was this game is going to be massive. They depicted it as a open galaxy game where you could kind of Star Trek your way around all over the fucking place, kind of wherever you wanted. When the game came out, it became a lot more linear, a lot more restricted, a lot more point to point.
It was pretty much in the same vein, in the same storytelling style as all their previous RPGs. I mean, let's be honest. You look at the story formula of KOTOR, of Jade Empire, of Baldur's Gate,
Oh, yeah.
of all of those, they had a similar thing where you have like a starting area. You have a few. You usually have 3 or so areas that simultaneously open up after that starting area that you can go to in any order you want. Then after that, you have a couple areas after that that are kind of your leading up to your climax, so to speak. And that's been a formula they've used since, I want to say, I think Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights were the first start of that, but they've repeated that on and on, and it's worked well for them. I can't argue with that. They did the same thing with Dragon Age Origins as well. But yeah, when it originally was touted, it was touted as its thing for exploration. And then when they came back to Andromeda, they were like, okay, now that the Shepherd arc is done, we want to go back to the roots of exploration. Except they didn't do that. They just made big, empty, open worlds that weren't really... And there was nothing to explore.
There was nothing really there to explore. What they should have done... It's funny because they mentioned this when Dragon Age came out, or Dragon Age Inquisition. And they were talking about they took so much influence from Skyrim and Dragon Age Inquisition. And I felt like the open world in Dragon Age Inquisition was interesting. There wasn't really a lot you could do with it, but it looked interesting. There was some cool stuff to explore. I don't feel that way about Andromeda at all. I wish they would have gone back to the small hub areas that you had in the trilogy. You know, where like Omega is very memorable. The Citadel's very memorable.
Yep.
The Asari homeworld, very memorable. I can't think of it. Thessia. Very, very, very memorable. Ermire, very memorable. Ilium, very memorable.
Yep.
But I don't remember most of these planets really in Andromeda. They're just these big masses that was pretty, but they didn't have character. They lacked soul. And I would have rather it seen, you know, less areas that are smaller, but had character and were memorable and had stuff going on with the level of detail there. I would have rather had that than just these worlds that are just, hey, here's a massive map. And I feel like they're kind of screwing up a lot of games because everybody's trying to go open world this generation, especially at the beginning of the gen. Hey, we can make a world that's this big, and we're going to put this much stuff in it.
That's
I don't care if your world is this big if you're only putting this much stuff in it.
Here's a funny thing, Kev, though. There's an interesting point of going back to No Man's Sky again. There is likely going to be a lot of fucking nothing out there if you can explore everything. 99% of it is going to be dead space.
Well, the thing is, here's the truth, though. Here's my thing.
Rest in peace, Visceral Games.
Yeah. That's such a shame, too. Here's my thing, is that it is certain, there is a certain bit of realism to there being big, empty, open worlds, right? Because that's how life is, right? Yeah. However, for example, you take Europe, for example. There are large portions of Europe that are nothingness, that there is nothing around. There may be some bit of wildlife, but there's no civilization. There is, and we'll go back in time. We'll go to Middle Ages Europe. And I'm on a quest, a journey, whatever, for blah, 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 doing my fantasy type things. I'm a knight in shining armor. Guess what? I ain't gonna be in the middle of fucking nowhere, wandering around picking elf fruit. I'm gonna be around the areas where other people are. I'm a knight of the realm.
Elf fruit.
You know.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Is that
elf fruit.
You're first and foremost telling a story, which telling a story doesn't have to be exposition, character dialogue, you know, cutscenes, that sort of thing. Storytelling can be environmental, and I feel like that
Bethesda does environmental storytelling very well.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
Do it.
If you take, for example, Morrowind or Oblivion. Oblivion I usually use as the primary example, even though a lot of people know Skyrim because they're younger and that's the Elder Scrolls game they were introduced with. But a lot of times I use Oblivion as a good example of environmental storytelling.
I was introduced to them with Skyrim, and I still don't like Skyrim.
Like, the thing is that I started playing back with my Xbox, playing Morrowind, and that game fucking hooked me hardcore. Still, to this day, I have not yet touched a game that I have played as much as Morrowind. Morrowind, I think I clocked upwards of 3,000 hours into that game.
And I think we all have that one game. Like for me, I would say it probably is the entire Mass Effect trilogy. I think I beat Mass Effect 2 about 25, 26 times.
Well, the thing is
we all have that game.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it mystifies me that I've played that game so much to where I was at a point, and Xaiphen can confirm this, I would hear the first couple of opening notes of that game, the bump, 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 bump. And I would just I would zonk out.
I was pretty close.
I would just zonk out immediately. Just like
I was right behind you on that one, honestly. Not quite that bad. Like I get to where I'm moving around, and like and not up, and I'm walking into a wall. I don't know how long I've been walking into the wall, but I've been walking into the wall for a while.
But in any case, though, in Oblivion with the environmental storytelling, oftentimes the way I would kind of talk about it is that. You would go to, and you have to forgive me, I can't fucking remember the names of things to save my life, but you would go into the one, Skingrad, as the name of it. Skingrad was a town in central of Cyrodiil, right? And you would kind of wander around in there, and you would find yourself to the castle, and you would find like 20,000, not literally, but you'd find several different like secret passages, fake little candle things you could pull that would open up false walls and shit like that, and secret passages everywhere. And guess what? None of them fucking mattered. There was one of them that was tied to a quest. Every other one was just there for shits and giggles. Like, it was there just because it was trying to give you that sense of, ooh, this castle is kind of like secretive and there's cool shit about it. If you look at that with Skyrim as a comparative, everything in Skyrim that was hidden that seemed out of normal was always tied to a quest of some type, which that was something that kind of bugged me about it. But regardless, there was so much environmental storytelling that you would go off beaten paths, and like in Morrowind, you found yourself wandering around the world, and you would find yourself into this tomb that seemed like a normal Dunmer tomb. And then you'd find there was a wall that collapsed out of it, and then you'd start wandering down and down and down, and you kept going down for what seemed like forever, and then you end up in a giant cavern with a fucking Viking ship in it, and you're like, what? And you start gathering clues and figure out that this is some former Nordic lord that died, and they wanted to give him a fitting burial, but Dunmer didn't allow it. Very interesting. Useless, but interesting.
Even prior to that, I like considering other console games of the era, I would find myself staring at the puddles of water while it rained.
Yeah, because the water physics.
We've already had enough on the internet with puddles this week.
No. I'm just saying, like the water physics in that game was very good.
I'm just saying, puddles almost broke the internet this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, the puddles.
But no, my thing is that I do strongly refute the idea that that they're not going to betray their core principles. I'm like, listen, you already betrayed your fucking core principles. Get off your shit.
Yeah, they BioWare betrayed their core principles.
And
they're past that point.
And as a final thing, as we start to wrap up here for the night, I do want to point out just the comical joke. I don't know. I just caught the story today. I thought it was fucking hilarious, and I wanted to make a mention of it. The Battlefield 5 beta has, like, the chat has sensors in place for profanity and such.
I saw that. Somebody liked the video from Angry Joe.
And it blocked...
He typed in white man. And it blocked white man.
It blocked white man. It blocked... DLC was censored. DLC is censored in the Battlefield 5 beta.
I wonder if BBC was.
Huh?
I wonder if BBC was.
No, I think DLC, that's the one that's really funny. Why would EA be blocking DLC in the chat, I wonder?
Loot boxes blocked.
Seriously? Oh my god.
I also wouldn't be surprised if they blocked COD.
Yeah.
They've probably blocked COD as well.
I love how they're...
A lot of people block that. Oh wait, you said COD, never mind.
Yeah, no. My thing is that they made the comment of EA DICE has responded to say that the profanity filter isn't working exactly as intended. I'm like, motherfuckers, no, it's working exactly as you intended it. You were just hoping nobody would notice. That's what it is. You're not. You're not sorry because you actually are sorry for what you did.
Got caught.
You're sorry you got caught. That's exactly what it is.
I mean, it's like, and I'm not mad at you for getting caught. I'm just saying we know you did it. Just admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would be all good.
Yeah, and of course, naturally throwing the obligatory fuck EA. Yes, yes. Absolutely.
Yes, fuck EA.
In any case, let's go ahead and get wound down. Xaiphen, final thoughts.
I've been drinking too much Mountain Dew. I'm going to be running away as soon as we cut the camera.
I had one more drink.
Yeah, Mountain Dew. It hurts so good.
Kev, final thoughts.
It hurts so bad. Final thoughts. Of course, if you're not checking me out already on Twitch and YouTube, you can check me out at twitch.tv/KevN7 Gaming, or you can check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/KevN7 for regular content. That's stuff that you won't see on the podcast. Well, except for me screaming loot box. I always scream loot box.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm still enjoying Spider-Man. And like I said before, if you really want to know my views on how I feel about Spider-Man, wait for my first impressions video. Because I want to start doing more pre-produced videos on my YouTube channel in particular. So I'm working on a lot of that, and I plan on getting that started ASAP.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's right now.
Good stuff.
Also, I want to throw some salt at Mort, throw some shade, because Mort said, "How did I not notice that he's put 3,000 hours, or 300 hours, excuse me, into Divinity Original Sin 2?" I'm pretty sure he bought the motherfucker on GOG.
And
which is something I don't actually open. I have games on there that I haven't actually touched.
I don't think I can roll my eyes any harder.
It's like, so I went looking on Steam, and I was like, wait, Mort only buys the game on Steam if he can't get it on GOG.
Yep.
Whereas as opposed to, I'm very attached to the Steam ecosystem and the Steam interface. So I really like the Steam interface.
That's your own damn problem.
It's not a problem. It works well for me. It's just I don't know why you thought that I would have noticed that.
Because Discord announces whenever I'm playing games. And
I only get on Discord to I come check anything updated. I'll come out, throw some ponies out there, and then I go play my pony game.
He literally does. And when he says throw some ponies out there, I uploaded an emote to our Discord server, links down below. That is literally God, that was smooth.
There's literally a bunch of ponies.
It is literally a pony emote just for Kev, so that he can throw his Sony fanboyism around. Can I
get an Xbox? I asked for Mario, but they'll shut our Discord server down if we get Mario.
Yeah, they would sue us for various things.
Yeah, we will get obliterated. It'll be bad.
Yeah.
When I say it'll be bad, it'll be like Star Wars Battlefront 2 obliterated.
Yep. But anyway,
like as Rise of the Tomb Raider obliterated.
As we're closing down for the night on there, would obviously direct everybody's attention down to the links on whatever site that you happen to be watching and or listening this on, because there are links to our Discord server where you can chat with us and have all good times as we throw shade on all these guys and make a lot of really inappropriate jokes. There's also links to Kev's and mine and our YouTube and Discord, or our YouTubes and Twitch channels and Mixer, and I think other things on there as well. And then there's also
help us peer pressures, and also help us peer pressure Xaiphen into actually making some content.
No,
we've been trying to peer pressure.
No, you can't peer pressure somebody who just doesn't have the internet for it. So in any case, there is.
I didn't say stream it. I said do pre-recorded video.
Yeah,
480p.
But in any case, though, also on there, something else to do. If you guys really enjoy our podcast, love listening to this, you think that I have the most graceful voice and Kev sounds like a squeaky teenager, which we all know is true, of course. But if you do think that, please share this around. Let your friends know. Let's start taking over the world.
I got a better one, and this is something I should have mentioned earlier.
Okay.
This is a birthday gift for me, because my birthday's coming up on Monday. Moritz was a month ago. Do it for birthday presents for us.
Yeah.
Because you love us. Share the content.
Yeah. Share it around. Have fun. And now we're going to start turning up the music so that everybody can't start talking. We're going to get signed out of here, guys. We will be back. We will be back in next week. Only streaming, no audio. Obviously, we don't do audio of the plays streams that we do, but those are on our Twitch and YouTube channels. You can come check us out while we play some games and goof around for a while. And then the week after that, in 2 weeks from today, we will have another Pixel Crashers podcast where you guys can check us out and listen and watch and all that good fun. So until then, you guys check us out. We'll be back in a little bit, and have a good night and all that good stuff. Yay, fun. Kev is going to make some obligatory random screaming comment after this, but...
I'm pretty sure I'm muted,
so... Now he's muted.
Oh. I got you.
You're not muted yet, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
I just wanted to throw out, I love the comments. Someone was like, hello, Kev's chat. That was the best part.
I was liking the whole time, bro.
No, yeah, well, no, I responded from his chat.
It was the best part.
Those gifts in there, too. Those